The hunt in the Shadowlands. In the heart of the vast and hostile desert of the Middle East, a barren wasteland bathed in an unearthly glow beneath the full moon, two elite Navy SEAL teams were sent to investigate the vanishing of a U.S. Army general and his guard unit. Intel from satellites had pinpointed the last known location of the convoy deep within a remote region, near a derelict village surrounded by rocky terrain and uncharted caves. Rumors of locals reporting strange sightings, a creature with unblinking eyes, shadows that moved on their own, had filtered through the intel brief, brushed off as myths of the desert. The SEAL teams, Alpha and Bravo, were given strict orders: locate the missing general, retrieve his guard detail if possible, and report any unusual findings. They had prepared for hostile human forces, insurgent strongholds, or even chemical attacks. But nothing had prepared them for what waited in the shadows. Day 1, the descent. After a rugged chopper drop, they traversed the unforgiving terrain, cutting through the chilled desert air with only their breath and the crunch of sand beneath their boots breaking the silence. By nightfall, they reached the village, long abandoned, with doors torn from hinges, walls scrawled in what seemed like claw marks. Their radios began to crackle with faint voices, broken transmissions from the missing guard unit's frequency. But it was impossible. The entire unit had supposedly disappeared 2 days ago, and no known radio signal would have held out this long in the dead zone. "Do you hear that?" whispered Diaz, one of Bravo's younger men. A faint, ghostly voice echoed across the sand, a distorted repetition of the last known transmission: "We're here, we're still here." But there was nothing visible, only silence and the unsettling presence of something lurking nearby. Day 2, the shadows close in. As the team scoured the village, they began to find pieces of U.S. Army kit strewn across the ground, helmets with jagged claw marks, bulletproof vests shredded like paper. Blood trails stained the ground and led them to the outskirts of the village, where they found a severed hand clutching a rosary, half buried in the sand. "That's Captain Reyes," muttered O'Hara, Alpha's medic, recognizing the chain. They exchanged uneasy glances, each feeling an invisible pressure mounting. They heard rustling from the shadows, low growls that weren't entirely animalistic, nor human. Then came the smell, thick, metallic, and rotten. It washed over them like a wave, filling their lungs with dread. But worse were the shadows, the distinct, ghostly outlines of soldiers, faded and insubstantial, watching them from just beyond their vision. Their eyes were hollow, dark, and filled with an insatiable hunger. Day 3, the first attack. Under the pale moonlight, the SEALs made camp outside the village. They moved in pairs, keeping guard shifts. Ramirez and Sanders, from Alpha Team, took the first watch. They were halfway through, whispering to keep each other awake, when Sanders noticed a figure standing at the edge of the rocky cliff nearby. "Do you see that?" he asked, nudging Ramirez. The figure was unmistakably a soldier, but translucent, ethereal, his face twisted in terror as if frozen in a moment of agony. Suddenly, from the depths of the shadows, two glowing eyes appeared, low to the ground and wide, narrowing as they locked onto the men. The shadow shifted, growing into the massive form of a creature with a muscular build, shaggy fur, and long, clawed fingers. "Werewolf." The word tore through Ramirez's mind, cold and unforgiving, as he watched the beast step forward. His breath caught in his throat as Sanders lifted his rifle, trembling, finger poised on the trigger. Before they could fire, the beast leapt, moving with impossible speed, and all they heard were the shredding sounds of flesh and bone. By the time the rest of the team arrived, only bloody remains of Sanders were left, his wide, lifeless eyes staring at the dark sky. Day 4, the ghostly warnings. One by one, each SEAL encountered more ghostly apparitions of soldiers from the missing guard unit. These visions would appear briefly, eyes dark, and whisper cryptic phrases like, "Don't stay. Don't follow the lights." The men were stricken with an unshakable fear, an instinctive terror that gripped them every time one of the apparitions appeared. But desperation kept them moving, kept them inching further towards whatever force lurked deeper in the shadows of the cliffs and ravines. It was Bravo Team Sergeant Cole who saw it next, another soldier, bloodied and pale, reaching out as though trying to escape. Behind him, half in shadow, the werewolf lurked. He fired a shot that should have taken down a small truck, but it only enraged the beast, which lunged toward him. Cole screamed, pulling a grenade pin as he went down, rolling hard the ground but doing little to the monster's form, which seemed to regenerate, blood and flesh knitting back together as it advanced. The final night, the battle in the ruins. With both teams dwindling, only 4 men remained. Haunted by both ghostly soldiers and the prowling werewolves, they retreated into an old bunker for their final stand. The walls bore strange, ancient symbols that seemed to flicker and glow as the beasts approached. They held fast, rifles and grenades aimed at the entrance. The first werewolf stormed in, its eyes glowing like embers. It swiped at O'Hara, tearing his chest open, but the seals fought hard, emptying round after round until the creature fell, twitching on the ground. But as soon as one fell, 2 more seemed to take its place, shadows emerging and forming into snarling creatures. The ghosts of the missing guard seemed to grow louder, their voices mournful and angry, filling the bunker with an unnatural hum. And then, they heard the general's voice among them, his tone colder, more commanding. "You never should have come here." Realizing they were outmatched, the remaining SEALs made a desperate choice. They rigged the bunker with C4, setting it to detonate as they made their escape. The ground trembled as the explosion lit up the night, and for a moment, they felt they'd destroyed the evil lurking within. The aftermath, the shadows endure. Yet as they reached the extraction point, one last figure stood in their path, a soldier from the missing guard, his face twisted and hollow, whispering through broken teeth. "We're all here, forever." His form flickered, and behind him, the werewolf's eyes gleamed once more from the darkness, shadows stretching and reforming, waiting to claim more lives. Shaken and bloodied, the remaining SEALs escaped, but the horrors of the Shadowlands had marked them forever. They had survived, but deep in the desert, the spirits and shadows continued their eternal hunt, waiting for the next unlucky soul to wander into their cursed domain. If you enjoyed tonight's terrifying tale and want to hear more ghostly encounters, spine-chilling mysteries, and supernatural horrors, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. But beware. This simple act isn't just support, it's protection. Each like strengthens the barrier against lurking ghouls, prowling werewolves, and other unseen terrors that wander the night. So, stay safe and fortified, join us, because you never know what shadows might be creeping closer. Like and subscribe.